If I had the choice, I would choose to live back when Calypso brought the news. If I had the choice, I would choose to live right back when Calypso brought the news. No more reporters, no anchormen, no recorder, no pad and pen, no nosy cameras to point and shoot, no red ink to cross out the truth.
Many visitors come to Trinidad for one thing and one thing only: Carnival, which locals say is the biggest party on earth. A pre-Lenten festival of costumes, food, copious drinking, and the kind of dancing you better be good at before trying in public. It's almost 2 months before the party officially starts, but here in Trinidad's capital, Port of Spain, the Carnival season has already begun.
I thought it was a pity that you went here during the peak of the Carnival season.
I'll tell you something really terrible about myself. Like, I've never been to Mardi Gras, Carnival in Rio, any kind of carnival. Like, large numbers of strangers swarming through the streets, dancing in uniforms.
Doesn't do it for you?
No, some of my deepest fears are having to dance or sing in public. Either of these would be terrifying. So this seems like a situation where that might come up, you know?
Queen's Park Savannah will be the epicenter of Carnival. But tonight, it's still Trinidad's street food center. My dinner companion for some fried snapper is LaShawn Prescott, who's here to tell me about 2 essential skills necessary for the proper enjoyment of local nightlife. Turns out I am very good at one and suck epically at the other.
What is liming?
Liming is like our version of hanging out,
right.
You know. You're with friends, you're chilling, that's liming.
Is there alcohol involved? Chances are, if you're liming,
probably.
you're sipping.
I mean, you can lime without beer.
What about the rum? I haven't had any rum here. How does one drink rum here, and which rum should I be drinking? Does one drink it on the rocks?
One drinks it with Coke.
With Coke?
Yeah, rum and Coke.
But the rum's supposed to be really, really good here.
Yeah.
What do I want to mess it up with Coke for? Okay, so we've established what liming is. What is whining?
The technical term is the circumduction of the hips. And it's a style of dance. And if you're not used to the culture, you don't understand what it means, you can interpret it the wrong way. When you see it for the first time, you can think it's seductive, you can think it's sexual. But people can whine on each other and not really mean anything. I can whine on you and it doesn't mean that I want to take you home, you know? It's something that's really about freedom of expression of self. And it's something that crosses ages, races, ethnicities, especially during Carnival time. You see people from high status and people who are, you know, lower class. They both whine together. You know, the barriers are no longer there. It's all just a mix of all the different ethnicities and stuff.
The faces you see in the streets are African, Indian, Chinese, Middle Eastern in features, and every shade of mix in between. This patchwork of ethnic identities and colors is a direct legacy of Trinidad's colonial past. Located at the southern end of the Caribbean Sea, 7 miles offshore from Venezuela, Trinidad and Tobago have long been important ports of call. Like a lot of islands in the area, everybody's been through here at one point or another. The usual European hunters of fortune. The Spanish came looking for gold. Then the Dutch, French, and British took their turns at the real money of the time, sugar. An economy built on plantation labor and slavery. Finally, the island hit the big money: oil. A pair of seemingly unrelated events had a big impact on the island's musical culture. During World War II, the U.S. Navy built an oil depot to supply overseas strategic needs. And decades earlier, the ruling British had banned drums made from traditional-style animal skins after a series of riots they insisted had been inspired by African drumming. One improvises in such circumstances, and all those oil drums were repurposed. This is Phase 2, one of only 11 large steel bands taking part in the worldwide competition Panorama that happens in a few weeks. Winner gets 150 grand. They've taken home the prize 7 times, in no small part due to this man, Lennox Bugsy Sharp. The rehearsal space is called a panyard, and if you're lucky, somebody nearby is making this: corn soup, split pea broth, dumplings, and of course, corn. Kim Johnson is a local journalist and historian who knows about this stuff. It's far more complex than you think.
Wow. I gotta tell you, that was incredible. I heard a lot of, little steel drum bands around the Caribbean, but nothing like that. All percussion, right? 100%.
Yes.
How did your interest in this develop?
I grew up here. Later, I became a writer. I discovered there were just hundreds of stories. Because in the early days, up until the 60s, the steel bands were partly like street gangs. They would fight with one another. The West Side Story
Right.
kind of thing. The steel bands doubled as that. So I just got fascinated by tracking down all of these pioneers and getting their stories and how they got involved.
I'll be 64 years this year. I played music since a little kid.
Yeah, these stories that he grew up with them in one of his backyards. So when he was about 3 years old, he was going out playing with them.
Trinidad, with a population of only 1.3 million people, had 460 murders last year, giving Port of Spain a per capita murder rate higher than Detroit, Oakland, or Chicago. Mark Besant covers the subjects of drug and gang-related violence as an investigative journalist.
People want you dead.
You could say that.
Who wants you dead, do you think?
Well, 2 years ago, I did a piece about the state prosecutor, Dana Sital, who was shot dead. When State Prosecutor Dana Sital left the Mapao car park just before midnight on May 3rd, she had no inclination it would be her last moments alive.
When Mark began to look into the murder of the prosecutor, an informant told him there was a $20,000 contract on his life.
They had people following me over a period of time, some law enforcement officers and so on. So my company put me on a plane. I stayed under an assumed name for about 3 months in a location outside of Trinidad.
Generally speaking, when people like that want you dead, they get you. Why are you back?
I guess, to quote from a great U.S. journalist, Walter Cronkite, it's not what we want people to know, it's what they need to know. We need to have people held accountable for certain things. With drug trafficking being one of the biggest businesses in the world, Trinidad continues to be a major transshipment point for drug dealers to get that product out to North America and to Europe. So you find now the explosion of violence that we have is for those that are involved locally with the drug trafficking, this fight for territory.
An estimated $3.5 billion worth of narcotics move through the Caribbean each year. Trinidad's porous borders, busy port, proximity to Venezuela, and the inevitable corruption that comes with numbers and threats like that make it, unfortunately, an ideal transshipment point.
How bad is high-level corruption alleged to be?
Fairly deep. I think that the complicity comes across the law enforcement agencies, customs, police officers, even at higher levels.
And with corruption, poverty, hopelessness, add some radical ideology to that, and Trinidad has proved relatively fertile ground for the recruitment of ISIS fighters and terrorists.
It's quite alarming with Trinidadian nationals being one of the highest in the region going to Syria. And it's over 100 on a list, an FBI list. They feel that it's the calling from ISIS that they need to go.
So what's the future look like? What do you think? How's it going to go?
Wow, that's a loaded question. There are really good people here in Trinidad. There are really, really good people that can make a difference on all fronts. If we go down the path that we're going down, they will be all bad.
In 1990, the radical Islamic group Jamaat al-Muslimin laid siege to Trinidad's parliament, claiming they were responding to rising inequality, poverty, and religious discrimination. What ensued was a violent and terrifying disaster. 26 people were killed in skirmishes, and the hostage-takers, would-be revolutionaries, gave up in exchange for clemency after 6 days. Little changed. Mohammed Muakil's father took part in the attempted coup. He grew up, in fact, in the Jamaat al-Muslimin compound. But he's chosen to take a different path: music. He's the lead singer of Freetown Collective, a band named after a Port of Spain neighborhood that was once a settlement for freed slaves.
They say we can't write no love songs, live fast and we die young. They say we doomed to fail, yeah. They say we doomed to fail. They say we prone to violence and a sinking silence. They don't know what they say. No, 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 no.
Much like a lot of reggae, his music calls out the social ills that have been disproportionately visited on the Afro-Caribbean population.
I see bodies lying in the streets, nations collapse in the midday. Lord, I need to cool my head, my head. They're calling it a brave new world, freedom for brave new boys and girls. What good is freedom if you're dead?
You look around my city right now, and a lot of young people are choosing death over life because the life that they look at doesn't feel like it's substantiated by anything.
In the Freetown neighborhood now called Belmont, he lives with his 81-year-old granny, Neela Natu.
The thing is that recently we've had a lot of people who I've known, who I grew up with, who've gone to fight in Syria, who've left here. I mean, they will tell you that the official count is 140. I would say it's more.
You'd say it's more?
I'd say it's more.
And why do you think people would go?
I'd have to go back into my childhood to explain that to you. The coup that happened here happened when I was 6 years old. And you had all these young people in there who had this idea, you know, we're going to build this thing. There's this community that's going to stand up against what's going on in Trinidad, that's going to stand up against the drugs and stand up against poverty and stand up against crime, and nothing happened.
In none of these causes, religious fundamentalism or fervor has not come up. Every issue you've mentioned so far has been perceived inadequacy of social justice.
Right, yeah.
So these kids going off to Syria, they have any idea what they're doing? Or are they just pissed off?
No, they do not. People say that poverty breeds crime. I don't think poverty breeds crime in a sense. I think exclusion breeds crime. Because if I truly care for you, if I feel like you are a part of the thing that I exist in, then I won't hurt you. I might come in your house and steal some food. But when you see that kind of violence being enacted, you have to ask yourself, it's not just somebody saying, I need this tablecloth, I'm gonna take this. No, I want this tablecloth. And you've had this tablecloth for too long, so you know what? I'm gonna take this out on you, this is gonna happen, that's gonna happen. And that's what we're seeing now. I mean, how long can people put up with something before they decide this is enough? You know what I mean?
Would you say that Carnival and that Carnival attitude, the liming culture, might as well be a brilliant strategy to narcotize the people into being satisfied with the status quo?
Everything here is somehow designed to pacify it without us really realizing. So our music, which is supposed to give us adrenaline, as well as sleeping pills sometimes, it's just doling out sleeping pills. Like, go ahead, enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself, enjoy yourself. You're a Trini. Trini means fun-loving and happy and whatever, despite whatever it is.
It's a big and delicious home-cooked meal.
I caught this myself.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Red snapper?
Yeah.
The snapper is seasoned with lime juice, shadow benny, and onion.
What's this dish called? Is there a name for it?
This is called oil down.
Oil down.
Yeah.
For oil down, they season breadfruit and meat with dasheen and green figs, then simmer in coconut milk.
And, well, she uses pork, as you can see, which I know I can't have any, so that's okay.
Now, your grandma, not a Muslim.
No, the Roman Catholics.
Roman Catholic.
Of Roman Catholics.
Old school.
Sacred Heart up on the wall.
I got a kind of a perfect one for you, so you'd have it.
Oh, beautiful, thank you.
Pastel.
This is mostly when the Spaniards were here, introduced this. It's a Spanish thing.
Pastels are the Caribbean cousin to the tamale. Minced beef is wrapped in cornmeal dough, then in banana leaf, then steamed.
Table, for sure.
She will feed you till you burst, like,
Yeah.
like any grandmother, you know, right? Yeah.
I'd be well looked after.
And that is once a year.
So when do these ordinarily...
Christmas time.
Christmas. This is very, very delicious.
Thank you very much. And one thing I vex about, why he didn't put ice in his glass.
It's good, it's fine.
So he must say thanks or whatever. You made tell Muhammad it's not good.
So you have that generation. Very proper. Like, very, very proper. And one of the things about Trinidad is
Muhammad, don't bad talk me.
I'm not bad talking to you. I only speak the truth. That generation very much believed in independence and that this nation would be something. And then they told their children, study and come and help this nation, build this nation, and it's gonna be something. And that generation, which was my parents, they did that.
Right.
And then they had kids, you know? And all of a sudden it was like, okay, all these things y'all been saying about building a nation and whatever, how come I'm seeing these people benefiting and I'm not? How come I'm seeing this, I'm seeing that, I'm seeing that? And there were very few answers, you know what I mean?
So who runs this country?
Like everywhere else, that 1%, like everywhere else.
Everybody here is very eager to tell you what a wonderful mix it is. And the food, if you look at it, is this incredibly harmonious
Right.
stew pot. But I guess life doesn't work as well as food.
No, the only thing we've agreed on in this place is how much salt to put in anything. So that's the only thing we've agreed on.
Man, we on a mission. Our whole world to change. Yeah. Our whole world to change.
Trinidad, it should be pointed out right now before you start packing your Speedo and your cocoa butter, is an industrial island. And like so many places, industrialization is changing the landscape here. But some things persist, remain, echo from all the way back then. When West African slaves would covertly do this. Kalinda.
This martial art, based on our research, is maybe 500-600 years old.
Stick fighting variations occur throughout the Caribbean, but in Trinidad and Tobago, it's like deep in the blood.
This martial art was illegal for many, many years, yes?
Yeah.
I mean, certainly during slavery times, it was illegal.
To this date, I believe there's still laws on our books that ban this stick, and if you're caught with it, you could go to jail.
The laws of slavery times forced this sport underground. Like capoeira, it often had to be disguised as a dance. But this ain't no dance.
The guys with the whip and the guys with the stick were all the guys saying, you have not broken us. We will continue to resist to the ends of time.
Rondell Benjamin and Keegan Taylor studied fighting styles from around the world before coming around to their own homegrown martial art.
Now, what's legal?
What's not legal
Let's say what's not legal.
I can't hit to the legs.
You can't. Oh, damn, because that would be the first thing I think of. I'm thinking, I gotta get that knee in particular.
Now, to be honest, in stick fighting, legal and illegal is a concept, but it doesn't stop that kind of stuff from happening.
Right. But I mean, let's face it, this is a pretty heavy object.
Yeah.
I get a good swing, a tee off, and I get a clean shot on the head. This is what the New York Police Department would call a deadly weapon.
Yes, sir.
If I'm fighting, if I'm really fighting, I'm a monster. I gotta lick you down, I gotta kill you, I gotta dig you up, I gotta bury you, I gotta murder you, I gotta take you out. The demon in me is gonna come out, but I call that demon to walk.
King David is one of the old school street fighters who has kept this form from fading over the years. As in Brazil and the Deep South, African slaves were given little to work with when it came time for the meal. More often than not, if they wanted meat, they had to make do with what the slave masters did not want. A tongue here, cow foot there. Here, as elsewhere, they figured out how to make something delicious and tender from whatever there was. Like souse, pigfoot is pickled in shadow beni, onions, and hot peppers, and then topped off with cucumbers.
This is a martial art. You either win or you lose.
Correct.
How do you win? What decides winner?
Who draws blood first win. All it requires is the end result. All you have to do is cut the guy.
Blood is blood.
What's the worst injury you've ever had in a fight?
This finger.
What's the worst injury you've seen in a fight?
I see a man lost the eye. And also I saw a man die.
Miles east of Trinidad, its sister island, Tobago. A whole different vibe around here. More like what you'd hope for when you waddle away from the buffet on the SS Norwalk cruise ship. Lazy beach days, boat drinks, villas, all set to a Calypso beat. In the 1800s, slaves would sing the news and gossip of the day in a Creole patois to an African beat. Later, musicians added European-style melodies, and Calypso was born. The longtime reigning queen of this music, an absolute pioneer of the form, is Calypso Rose.
Say that I reign too long, forgetting that the Constitution is strong. Instead of respecting the long, long reign, they making threat to take down the name. I've been breaking down walls ever since I was told they would stand up tall and strong like a wrecking drum. I would knock them down. They say that I reign too long. Tell them that
She was the first woman to win the Calypso King title, which tells you what the environment was like at the time for a female artist.
Everywhere I reign supreme, the one and only Calypso queen. No man alive or dead could come and take me from off my head.
Rose grew up in a large and strict Baptist family in Tobago until she was 9 years old and was sent to live with her aunt in Trinidad. So she grew up with a foot in each island.
What's the difference between growing up in Trinidad and growing up in Tobago?
It's much different. Tobagonians are 99.5% African. They are African slave descendants. The culture is more African. And this here is the cornmeal cuckoo. They call it fufu in Africa. When Tobago, they say cuckoo.
And this is callaloo.
And this is the callaloo made from the leaves of dasheen, you know? But the great thing is the crab. Everybody come to Tobago and must eat crab and dumplings. The dry coconut They grated the coconut, and the juice of that coconut, they put it in the pot with the little ingredients like tomato, onion, chive, and your curry.
Crunch it up.
Good teeth. If you have false teeth, be careful.
All right. No, so far, so good. Here's what really fascinates me is you started singing Calypso music and writing songs.
Of course.
At a time when it was only men. Your
My
father
father
was not
against it.
against it.
My father was spiritual Baptist minister. My father said Calypso belongs to the devil.
Calypso belongs to the devil, but it also belonged to men. And here you are at age 15,
age 13,
doing
right
what was considered a completely revolutionary thing. What was it about you that made you strong enough and different enough and determined enough to choose to do such a difficult and unusual thing when everybody was against it?
My fans. Because some people at home, they're sad, they're going through so much financially, economically, and being abused by the spouse, and they come out to have a good time. And when they come out, I bring joy to their heart.
So is making beautiful things enough?
Yes, making beautiful things enough. But when you start thinking consciously and beautiful things, like all the seas rolling there, how the sea is moving, moving, moving. Making beautiful things is enough.
It is enough.
No island in the sun is paradise on Earth, however it might look from the concrete blocks, glass cubicles, or wood boxes we may live in. And all the dancing and music and great food in the world can never hold together by itself what would keep us apart. What might look like a utopian stew of ethnicities and cultures living together under gently swaying palms is, of course, a far more complicated matter.